Hey, welcome, welcome. Come on in the room, y'all. About to get started. Hi. Thank you for joining. For those who don't know me, my name is Tia Osa. I'm the senior strategist with Build Power. Thank you for joining us today. Just waiting for my fellow panelists to get logged in here and come on in the room. Hello, hello. Hi. Come on in. How y'all doing?
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yep, I hear you.
Okay, hey Tia.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I
Um,
am
I
just adding folks in. Hey, Anastasia.
Hi y'all, how you doing?
Hey, doing
hey,
good.
Good.
Just looking for my people.
Tracy should be joining soon.
Yeah, I see Tracy. Here we go. Okay, here comes Tracy. And I think, Anastasia, I need you to come off so I can get Kendrick on, even though I don't see him yet.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hey
Hey, Tracy.
Tracy.
There you go.
Hey y'all.
Hey, okay. I think I see Kendrick. I think he's getting ready to join.
Dee I love the flowers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, looking very nice.
Oh, I like that. I forgot I was gonna put a red lip on too. I was gonna put a red
Let's
lip
see.
on too, but it's okay. You beat me to it.
Okay, inviting Kendrick, and then we're gonna get the conversation started. Kendrick, I see
What
you.
up?
Hey.
Yeah. What up, y'all?
What's
How you
up?
doing? How you doing? What
Hey.
up?
Feeling? How y'all feeling? Y'all ready to kick off this summer school?
Yeah,
I'm
summer
ready.
school is in session. All right. So, welcome everybody to Get Free Fridays. This is a collaboration between the People's Coalition and Build Power. We're going to be coming to you each week for the next couple of weeks to talk about the really amazing work that grassroots organizers are doing all over the country to help us all get more free. Today's conversation is fantastically hosted and moderated by Mr. Kendrick Sampson, my co-founder and comrade here at Build Power, and he's going to kick us off. And yeah, let's go for it.
You know what? Because I'm not terrible at technology, this is I ain't even gonna lie to you. My shit is on the wrong phone. So if you can send it. Hold
Tia's
on 1 second. I
face.
got you. I got you.
Trifling.
Just my
Trifling.
phone might look
Trifling.
weird in a second.
Mm.
Mm.
It's Get Free Friday. Anything can happen.
It really is. It really is. Um, so what we're gonna do is, I guess he's gonna leave and come back.
LOL.
Look at everybody in the comments like, "We love you anyway, Kendrick." Mm.
That's
Thank you, Naomi. That's
okay,
exactly what my
comment.
face looked like. So
Hey y'all.
as we wait for Kendrick to come back or log back on or get through what he gonna do, I'm gonna ask Miss Tracy Porter to introduce the People's Coalition, the People's Process, and yourself, please.
Yeah. I'm so happy to be here for the first Get Free Friday. My name's Tracy. Based in Oakland. She, her pronouns. I work at Action Center on Race and the Economy, or ACRE, on our policing, incarceration, and tech work. And you'd be surprised how much policing and tech connect. Um, and we are repping the People's Coalition for Safety and Freedom. We started in March 2019, actually. We have been working together, BYP 100 and Law for Black Lives and for Popular Democracy have been doing this work called Freedom to Thrive, connecting invest divest campaigns all across the country. And we said to ourselves, what will be a federal expression of that? And the federal expression came through the 94 crime bill that we'll talk about today. And so since 2019, we've just been grinding on how to repeal that and then also how to rewrite it with the people. So really excited to be here and talk more about that. And I'll hand it off to Dee Dee.
Yeah. Okay, Kendra, you good now? I just want to check. It was a little ghetto just now. I don't know.
Look, and I ain't even smoked yet today, but I'm back. I'm back on it, and I appreciate you, Tracy. I was watching, but I couldn't say nothing.
That's good. Okay, I'll go, and then you can introduce yourselves. Hey everybody, my name is Deidre Jackson, or Dee Dee. Most people call me Dee Dee. I use she, her pronouns. I am the national director of BYP 100, currently based in Chicago. And we're a national organization of young 18 and 35-year-old Black organizers, activists, artists, creatives, movement builders that's fighting for Black liberation in our lifetime. And we're doing some of that work with Tracy and folks at the People's Coalition for Safety and Freedom to repeal and replace the 1994 crime bill. Happy to be here.
The legendary BYP 100.
That's right.
100.
Gang, gang.
How did y'all
That's
become
right.
involved with the People's Coalition for Safety and Freedom?
I can go. So Tracy spoke to this a little bit before, but initially we were part of a project that was it was called Freedom to Thrive Report, and it was a collaboration between BYP 100, Law for Black Lives, and Policy Link to put together a report that was kind of showcasing some particular cities and how much the police budgets are in those cities, how much crime exists in the cities compared to how much the city also provides in resources, and how those things are instinctively connected and have always been. And then that project kind of grew into, well, what else do we want to do? And knowing that we were coming into 2019, which meant that the presidential elections were gearing up, and we knew that Joe Biden, who's our current president, was running, and we really wanted to showcase some of the work that he's done specifically around the 94 crime bill, and how him being in power will also continue the criminalization of Black and brown people, and the ballooning of police budgets, along with many other things. So that's how we came into this work. Yeah.
And I think the thriving language was really important, because so often we hear, oh, that there's no money to do the things that our communities need. Our communities are broke. We don't have any money in the city budgets. And what we saw was that, like, there is plenty of money in our city budgets. It's just being used to pay back Wall Street and to pay for police. And so what would it look like for us to not only have everything that we need to survive, but actually to thrive? And so that Freedom to Thrive language was very intentionally developed. I remember being in the room when we talked about it, because at first we were going to call it Failure to Freedom. And we said, well, actually, it's not a failure, because the system is actually working the way it was supposed to. So it's a failure for us, but for the people who architected it, it's actually working very well. So how do we become really intentional about our language? And so we've gone from that to this 94 crime bill, People's Coalition for Safety and Freedom.
Yeah, so it's, interesting times right now. We're talking about the 94 crime bill, and a lot of people don't understand, like, the programs that, came out of that, how it affects us today in our daily lives. We're looking at the criminalization of abortion right now. We're looking at, some criminalization of everything, the gutting of Miranda rights. You have, You know, it's easier to kill people and shoot people now, and you know, it's just so much that is tied to the '94 crime bill. Can you explain to some folks? Can y'all explain to some folks here how it touches us in our everyday lives now? And if you want to weave in there, because I see y'all be answering the questions already that I have. If y'all want to weave it in there right now, it's such a hard time because it applies. It's almost the same different part of the same question. How does the '94 crime bill affect us right now? And then also, since Joe Biden is in office, as we just discussed, you know, what are some of the difficulties? You know, I know whenever I criticize the Democratic Party, I've literally called the Republican Party poop on the bottom of my shoe. And then I give a strong criticism for the Democratic Party, and I am a demon. Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's light.
So I know it's hard to critique and to do the work necessary when the author is in office. How does that work go for y'all right now? What are some of those complications and the ways you overcome them?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that it's not just Joe Biden, right? Because look, if you think about who's in charge, this was legislation that was put up 27 years ago. Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, voted for it. Chuck Schumer, Senate Majority Leader, voted for it, right? So we could talk about all of the ways that it did really awful things policy-wise. $10 billion in subsidies to expand state prisons, cut off Pell Grants for people, 3-strike rules, let 13-year-olds be tried as adults, 60 new death penalty offenses, the cops office, which we're still fighting right now, which puts police in schools. All of that is really important. But when we talk about the direct impact right now, it's that it turned Joe Biden in his floor speech talked about how root causes didn't matter. If you go back and watch the floor speech that Biden gave when he was passing legislation, he said, doesn't matter that folks didn't have what they needed. It doesn't matter that we created the system that means that they don't have what they needed. Right now, we have to protect ourselves. And so there was a lack of responsibility on the part of the system that was put on people. And we see that continue right now in the ways that we put like vengeance and criminalization over care and thriving. We don't look out for each other. We say that, again, these root causes of things don't matter. So I think that when we talk about the legacy of the crime bill, that's where it is. And I'll give it to Dee Dee to talk a little bit more about how we're moving.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I mean, a lot of the things you said definitely agree with, and I think it's also part of the capitalist system that we live in. It is a way for, because we don't actually have a justice system. We have a capitalist system that determines who gets punished and who does not. And because it's capitalism, that means it is based on race, and it is based on class, and it's based on gender. And these are just some of the ways, the same thing with our education system. We don't have an education system. We have a capitalist system that determines who gets access to education and who does not. And Black people, poor people, are the ones that fall underneath the shoes, underneath the boots of the people that are making these decisions and profiting, really making bank off of new technologies that help to further surveil us. I'm just thinking about when I was in school. My mom didn't go to school with cops. Probably a lot of our moms and parents did not go to school with cops in the schools, but we did. That was my generation. So we were like born with the 1994 crime bill. And schools is just one of the ways that it was practiced and understood and that we had to learn. And so our coalition is really trying to tap into the people that are directly impacted by these issues and by the 94 crime bill, by mass incarceration, and figure out, like, if we can get rid of this bill, what would you want it to be? what's the new ideas and dreams and values that we want to place around safety that isn't about profit, that isn't about putting people in jail, that isn't about further isolating us, but it's actually about how can we come together even better.
Yeah, and can we, what can, like, even if it's brief, can we name some of them things? What are some of the things that you're hearing? You know, we're talking about it. Our nonprofit is called Build Power, right? And we're supposed to be building the things that we want to see. And people, as we talked about on our pre-call, right? You know, there are things happening. That work is happening all over the place. A lot of people think that the work that we're talking about is idealistic and far away, and like somebody, you know, one day can maybe think about doing this if we put our heads together, and they don't realize that people are already building, people are already writing the legislation, people have the draft legislation, people have been developing these praxis and, you know, philosophies and such over decades, right? So can we talk about some of that work? Name some of those things that you're hearing that people are saying we need this, and that work is happening right now.
Yeah. I mean, I would also say that, like, when we think about, like, that ACRE is an abolitionist organization, right? And so when we think about abolition, it's not just this, like, absence of policing, it's this presence of everything that we fight for. So all of the work that we fight for that is about making sure people thrive, making sure that people have holistic lives is the work.
Yes.
And so, you know, folks, when we talk to them, talk about needing housing, talk about needing after school programs, talk about needing environmental justice, talk about needing bodily autonomy. All of that is abolition work. And I know Dee Dee does a little bit more of a deep dive in some things that you can touch.
Yeah, just some local ones that, I mean, this is not, first of all, in 2020, the defund the police movement is also like part of what we're talking about, right? Like that was 20 million people that was out in the streets calling to defund the police, which is a significant shift in what the conversation around policing was, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years before that, when people were like, body cameras, more accountability. Like, we're not even saying police accountability. Like, we're not trying to hold them accountable. We're actually trying to defund them. We're trying to demilitarize them. We're trying to disarm them. We're trying to delegitimize them. And so some campaigns, like the one like in Chicago, which is where I live, shout out to the Defund CPD campaign. Right now, they're in the process of trying to get it's a treatment, not trauma campaign, which is going out, canvassing our neighborhoods, talking about what do we need to be safe. If you had the amount of money that the Chicago Police Department has for your community to keep it safe, what would you do? And that is the work that is happening, building some trauma centers in some of our cities, especially places like Chicago and Philly and LA and Houston and New Orleans, where you know, gun crime, the only solution that these people can think of is more police. That's as far as their little brains, their imagination can go. But we organizers, abolitionists, we have to have the imagination to think beyond that, right? So like, and shout out to Durham Beyond Policing campaign, which I helped to start in 2016, also just won its first like alternative response to mental health crises that's happening. That is through the development of a Department of Community Safety that came out of a campaign to get rid of the police in that city. So there's small steps that's always necessary to happen, and it requires more people. It requires more people that are from those places, that have the experience, that can not only share stories, but also put in the work to talk to more people about what we need to do to keep each other safe.
That's amazing. I'm going to step in here and ask Deatra to give us just a little bit more about what BYP 100 is up to, and then we're going to tag in our other panelists, Avant, to talk about what's going on as well. And yeah, just thank you also for joining us and sending you all kinds of peace and blessings for your much needed rest. Okay, there's a lot of folks in the comments like, yes, Black women do it. It's like sometimes Black women need a break too. Okay, and DH's taking a break. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for making time. I really want to appreciate you for making time to be on the live today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. Yeah, so BYP 100, we are looking for new members. First of all, if you're Black, you can join us. Let's start there. If you Black, you can join us. You can go to byp100.org or any of our Twitter, our Facebook, all of the things. We're in our membership recruitment season. So first of all, join the gang. And then also we're doing the work with the People's Coalition, with Tracy, with Acre, with Policy Link, Law for Black Lives. We just held a People's Movement Assembly in North Carolina that brought together many, many people from across the state to talk about what are the alternatives that we want to build in this new bill, in this bill that will replace the 1994 crime bill, and actually pulling from people. And so the next steps of this is we're going to have some drafting convenings. So we're bringing people together again to draft it. Like, there's so many bills, and as we all know, bills and policies and all these things that get made without us, that get made without our input, that get made without our consent, without the majority. And we're actually trying to practice something different. So this, nothing is perfect, but this is the practice that we really need if we plan to govern ourselves, if we plan to really govern our communities. And so that's the work that we're up to, and really grateful for all the people that are here. Please join an organization, and that's only step one.
Right.
Let's go, DB, giving them the step 1 and the 1, 2, and the step in the education. Come on, BLD 100 representing.
I try.
I ain't mad at you. I appreciate you.
Okay.
For sure, for sure. Yes, you're released.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye,
Follow me on
Bye,
Instagram. Follow me on Instagram, Merc Queen Gangster.
Yes, Merc Queen Gangster.
Let's go, Merc Queen Gangster. I love
Oh
her.
my gosh, I love her so much. I love BYP 100 so much, and
Yes.
just Chicago organizers in general. Just they get the job done and they have a good time doing it. All right, inviting ARJ. I'm inviting you to come to the live.
In the meantime.
Yes, in the meantime, continue.
In the meantime, yeah, I want to highlight one of the things she was saying, Didi was saying about our little imagination, and I want to kind of emphasize that, because I think it's so important. It's something that we talk about a lot at Build Power, about how important the imagination is, and how so many resources. What up? So many resources have been invested in diminishing and colonizing and stifling our imagination and what we believe, because that controls what we believe is possible, and what we know to be possible, and gives us the creative solutions that can get us out of this mess, right? So part of the work of, as we were talking about abolition and talking about reimagining, is all about imagining. Sometimes it's just like, we don't have to reimagine. We ain't even imagined it yet. So it is, that's why a lot of abolitionists and a lot of community organizers are actually creatives. And, I meet people all over the United States that I'm like, oh, these hardcore organizers, and they're like incredibly creative people. So I just wanted to lift up that point. I thought that was really, really, really important. Yeah. But what up? How you feeling? Joining us? Yeah, because I had to make some last minute changes, but I would love for you to introduce yourself, Avalon, and tell us a little bit about what how you became involved with the People's Coalition.
Thanks so much, Kendrick. And what up, people out there? So my name is Avalon. I am the project manager for the Illinois Alliance for Reentry and Justice. And we are a statewide coalition of directly impacted people, service providers, stakeholders, and allies, all united to remake the criminal legal system, because we know that the criminal legal system does not serve people that look like everybody on this call, right? That part. So we are united in that, and we're just looking to change how our state and our nation views certain things, such as reentry, right? Like one of our big focuses is having reentry start at first point of contact to ultimately result in no entry, right? So we're really pushing a new narrative and a new vision for how we start to interact with our brothers and sisters and people who don't identify as neither or as male or female, how we look at them and treat them from the very, very beginning. So because that was our impetus, right? That's part of the work that we're doing. When we found out about the People's Coalition, we was like, well, of course we got to get involved in this work, because the 1994 crime bill resulted in truth in sentencing here in Illinois, right? Like, so my brothers and sisters are locked up today under truth in sentencing laws as a direct result of the 1994 crime bill. And then we also have brothers and sisters that are in the Fed system, right? That's still doing time on the 1994 crime bill. So it wasn't oh, do we want to get involved? It was like, man, we got to get involved with this, because there's a Burundi proverb that says, everything you do without me, you do against me. And we practice that. We're like, no, you're not going to do, you're no longer going to do democracy without us. We just not having that part. And so participatory democracy is vital to the work that we do. And so it was like a no-brainer for us to get involved in this project. And I'm also, in full transparency, I'm on the advisory council for the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. And so my commitment to the work that they do, which is associated with this work, is it just made sense for us to get involved as a coalition.
Man, I love that. I love that. I mean, man, I wish I could just, it would take way too long and probably be boring, but I be wanting to like pick apart every little thing y'all be saying, because there's a whole education in each phrase, like almost each word. You just want to be like, this is why they picked this word, and these are the folks that you need to be following and understanding, because developing those relationships is the education, right? You learn more as you get involved in the work, as you follow their work on Instagram, as you hear what they're talking about. Ask questions, you know what I'm saying? If you got some, ask them respectfully. Y'all know y'all be acting crazy, ask questions, but you know, but ask them respectfully.
I have a couple of questions that folks are asking in the chat. So one, if you're not able to attend, we are recording these and we are going to save them so you can come back to the recordings. And then folks want to hear more about what you mean by abolition, what you talking about tech and policing. Talk a little bit more about that. And this is also why we're doing several weeks, Kendrick, to your point, because it's a deep dive into every nuance of what's happening, because that's how comprehensive policies like the crime bill are.
Yeah.
And coming through with Burundi proverbs. Come on.
And coming through with the culture, okay? All right.
The culture. Tracy, what were you about to say?
I was going to say about tech and policing. So shout out to my colleague, Alex Goodwin, lives in Chicago, amazing organizer there, and really leading up this campaign to stop ShotSpotter, which is this gunshot detection technology. So essentially, she has always said that our public safety shouldn't be up for our public safety, we shouldn't be able to make money off of it. And folks are. And so people will look at our neighborhoods and say, it's not safe there. And they'll make all of these assumptions about why it's not safe there. And they'll start investing tech money into it so that they can then enrich themselves and just watch us. It's not like our communities become safer because of it. Right. And so that like surveillance capitalism is what's happening in our communities. And so that's a real marriage of racial capitalism right in our neighborhoods, right with police.
So I'm gonna be a little controversial, as I am always. On the pipeline, all these tragedies are happening, and it seems like from day to day, I don't want to get on IG Live no more and say nothing. I don't want to put no video out and say nothing, because I'm like, what new are we gonna say? What new am I can only say abolish so much. You know what I mean? Like, we keep coming back to it, it's like, oh, we need to do this and that. No, throw the whole thing away. We can build. There's infrastructure that we're building that needs the resources, right? That needs to be improved, and the improvement can happen, and the support can happen for these systems that are already being built by folks like yourself, folks in our communities, and they need our resources. As we're talking about defunding, right? And this is the controversial part, you know, as we're looking at the election season coming up and we're talking about abolition, there's not a whole lot of politicians and leaders out there that are running for office that will align directly with that, right? That will speak out publicly and say, I'm an abolitionist. I don't believe this and that, whatever it is, right? And if we're giving folks advice on abolition, right? And then going to the electoral process and talking about legislation and stuff, can you talk about the importance of what is in place right now and how we mitigate damage with these actions and this type of organizing and participating in these processes, and how that, you know, reconciling that with it doesn't have to be super intricate and academic, but just like, yo, right now politics is crazy and we're like, we don't trust politicians, we don't know, the systems don't work, the systems are working this exactly how they are supposed to, and they're targeting our people, but we still need to participate in the voting process, in those types of in drafting legislation and things that will protect our communities. Can we talk about that a little bit, and how that's really hard right now with the politicians that are running, and the work that we want to push through during this election season?
I'll let you start, Iowa.
So let me just say, you are talking my love language, because we have to, like, you know, the saying, like, don't hate the player, hate the game, right?
Yeah, you're right.
And so we have to embrace that principle, right? Like, we can't hate the players, we have to hate the game.
Right.
But this is the game that we're playing right now. And so one of the things that we're doing, and see, when you talk about abolition is actually doing the work and that we're actually doing things, we're fighting for voting rights for our brothers and sisters in prison in our state. Like, that's what we're fighting for right now. We got a bill pending in our state legislature that will re-enfranchise our brothers and sisters that are behind the wall, right? Mm-hmm. Our neighbors that are behind the fence, because their vote matters too, right? Like, they need to be able to decide who's going to be on the school board for their babies, where the park's going to be in their neighborhoods. And without a right to vote, they don't have a voice in those matters. So we see that as empowering our people to then go out and do participatory democracy, right? Okay, now that that's only one part of it. So yeah, we need you at the ballot box. I'm not saying vote harder, boo, I'm not saying vote harder. But what I am saying is that we've got to vote, but then we also need to be part of the process. One of the other things that we're doing is, when state legislators come back and we propose legislation and they want to do carve-outs, like our coalition is against carve-outs, we are advocating for people with arrest and conviction records, period. We don't believe in carve-outs, because that is not who the person is. That is what the person maybe has done.
Do say a little bit about what a carve-out is, because people are not going to know.
Sure. So a carve-out is when you have legislation and you say it's available to all of these people, but not these people. So the carve-outs are the people who you exclude from the legislation. And very
a program that benefits someone, and then it says,
correct.
If you have a felony record or you have a criminal record, you can't participate in this licensing program, this grant offering, this scholarship, etc.
And even beyond that, like, they can say, for example, we're going to open up licensing to people with felony convictions, except if you were convicted of a sex offense or a violent offense. So they carve out certain types of convictions. And again, we are of the premise that that is something that you were convicted of. That is not who you are, right? And so we're adamantly against carve-outs in every way, shape, or form. So we push back and tell them, well, bring the receipts to support your carve-out. You want a carve-out? Just show us the receipts as to why you need this carve out, and then we'll have this conversation. Because here are our receipts as to why we don't need to carve out.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So that we have to really start taking ownership and claiming that narrative and pushing back, and not just allowing people to just tell us what they want to tell us because they're in positions of so-called power. We have power too.
Ooh.
We got centuries. Look, I said we got centuries of receipts.
Exactly.
To answer a little bit of that question, I wanted to, I feel like my brain is just working. So first I want to shout out Elizabeth Epps, who was just elected in Colorado, proud abolitionist to the state house. So we are electing our people, and we got to hold our people, because they're going to attack her because she believes what we believe, right? So we got to make sure that we have Elizabeth Epps' back, and we are working with her as she governs. And I want to also talk about the people's process that we are doing, which is like a core part of this work, which is, folks, when you talk about the 94 crime bill, you'll hear back, well, Black people asked for that. That's like the very first thing that we hear back. And so we're like, well, who did you ask? And who had access? And who was in the room? And so with the people's process, we are creating our own rooms. And we are saying that we are able to decide how this legislation is written. That's never been done before. So folks are empowered to talk about what happens in their own neighborhoods. I live in Oakland. I can't say what needs to happen in other places, but people who live in those places need to say what needs to happen there. And then we need to uplift it and understand their expertise. Like, you don't have to be a lawyer or whatever who writes legislation to know what you need. And that's what the people's process is. What do you need in your community, and how can we demand that it happens? And the other thing I'll say is that we hear all the time that we can't, and Kendrick, you talked about this, complain about Democrats. That is always our thing. We're always told they can't do anything. You're going to say this and they can't do anything. We heard that about abortion, and now what happened? They said, don't complain. They said there's nothing that Biden can do. And then what did he do after we complained? He came out with all of these things that he can do now. And so they want to silence us. They want to silence our complaints. And it's hard. I've been called names too. It's really hard to stand up against these systems that oppress us. And if it wasn't hard, everybody would do it. If it wasn't hard, they wouldn't be rooted in oppression. So it's really important that we keep pushing back and we find out abolition everywhere. So join a campaign. We have a website, costofpolice.org. You can just find out how much your local department gets in your city. 200 cities across the country. How much money is going to police, and then find out if there's a campaign to change that. Young people are demanding police out of their schools. So we've seen in Oakland, we saw in Milwaukee, they have won police out of their schools. Support them. So when we talk about abolition, we're talking about abolition everywhere. Maybe you can't do something at the city level at the moment. You can educate around it. And even for you, Kendrick, I know you're tired of making videos, but there are people who haven't seen them. Right? Every video you do, you reach somebody new. And so it is hard. But it's oh, I didn't see this before, but now you brought new people on. Right. If people would have been tired of seeing your videos, they wouldn't have heard from us, right? You have to keep making them.
Listen, I'm gonna keep making them regardless. So, but no, I think you also brought up a really important point in correction, in that we don't have politicians necessarily. We don't necessarily see a bunch of politicians that are aligned with our values and saying the things that we know will get us free. And sometimes that feels like no one in government, no one in any position of power has our views. That is not the case. And there are large campaigns out there to make us believe that. And so when we see folks in power, we question, and that is healthy. There are healthy ways to question that power and their intention in that seat. And we also need to understand that if they're there and they're fighting for the things that we need and they align with our values, we need to protect them. We need to join with them, coalition build with them, even in that accountability process. Because a lot of the time we get into those positions of power, and it's not just that we're not there, we don't get supported, and we get attacked, the more visible. So we have to surround each other and build that community even more and more, and connect with each other, and coalition build. That's what this work is, the People's Coalition. So you got to join the
I think you
People's
did.
Coalition. You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? And then when we talk about the other thing I want to highlight is you said it's just, we've been building tables. I know people be like, well, if y'all don't worry about then build your own table. We've been building tables. We keep building tables. You know what I'm saying? Well, let's not talk about what happens to those tables when we build them, but you know, the work is going on right now where tables are built and we need to sit at them and know that they exist, and we need to, you know, put community around them and support them. And that's what they're doing right now. They're like, you know what, y'all not gonna write these bills no more without us. We're not gonna wait for you. This is our room and our table. We're writing them. You don't have to ask us what we like. We've already done the polling. We've already done the conversations, the town halls. We know what we need. It's been decades of research and work. Here it is right here. And that is some of the most important work that's going on in the world. I appreciate y'all. You know what I'm saying? I just be getting all excited and shit.
And I just want to say that in Illinois, and I know this is true for all the other states that are part of the coalition, People's Coalition, we intentionally included people who were directly impacted.
That's right.
Because oftentimes their voice is not lifted up in these spaces, because they're still otherized, even by allies, right? Like, you know, so it was very intentional for us to make sure that, and the People's Process was adamant about doing it, and we were adamant about doing it, is making sure that we centered the voices of those that are directly impacted. I am directly impacted. I was wrongfully convicted in 2015, and you know, it is imperative for me to make sure that the people who have experienced have been victims or victimized by the criminal legal system, that they have a seat at the table, because they know better. They're the experts, right? Like, they're the experts about what's wrong, and they know what they needed at every point in time, right? And so we have to get their voices. And I'm so glad that the People's Coalition was adamant about including their voices, and that we did the same.
Absolutely, absolutely. Is there I know we've talked about it, you know what I'm saying? But as we know, we got to keep repeating so that people understand and digest. And that if y'all got anything repetitive, that rhymes with alliteration or something like that, you know, we need people. Get Free Fridays. We do that for a reason. Freedom School, summer schools. So anyway, y'all make sure y'all tune in. We're going to be doing this every Friday, right? Something like that. Every Friday. Okay. Every Friday, Freedom Summer Schools, with the People's Coalition. And we'll talk about a bunch of there's going to be things happening every week. Let's pray that they are less and less harmful. But we will discuss them here and how it relates to this work. Can y'all tell folks again how to get involved, where they can follow, and what this work is like, how you can get involved in this work right now?
Yeah, People's Coalition. If you look, the pinned comment is our Instagram, also Acres Instagram where I work, BYP, also Avalon's organization. So like, make sure you follow everyone, because we post and you will see how to get involved that way as new things come up. That's what I got. Avalon, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, like, get proximate, right? Get proximate to the problem, because there's only one way for you to actually really get involved and understand the nuances of what we're talking about, right? So get proximate. Like, you know, you could still be on IG and get close to the problem by following us and things like that. But get a little bit out of your comfort zone and get proximate. And we would love to have your time. Like, it's a lot of work that needs to be done, and a couple people can't get it done. So the more bodies, the better.
And two resources, costofpolice.org, somebody dropped it, and then defundpolice.org, which is a hub of information. I'm saying, if you ever want to run a campaign, anything you ever need to run it is there. So,
and I also want to just add Million Experiments. If you want to see abolition in real time at work, go to Million Experiments website, because they're actually showcasing alternatives to all of those things in real time, happening in real places. So that's another website resource for you to see real work. We're not dreamers, we're workers.
Yeah, and dreamers.
And dreamers.
We dreaming and working
We
and working and
dreaming
dreaming.
and working. We dreaming and working.
And and somebody said just real quick for my people who might not know what proximate means. What is just say what exactly you said? Get proximate. Somebody loved that, by the way. So that's gonna be one of them things that stick in people's heads. But also for those who don't know what proximate means, what do you mean by getting proximate to the work?
Get close, like get close to the problem. Even if that means getting a pen pal with somebody that's incarcerated, right? Like that's getting close to the problem, because you can find out like what are their circumstances, like what's going on, what are the things that they need, that they want, and dream about, helping them to get agency of their lives. So there are so many ways that you can get proximate, but I mean get close. Don't do it from afar. Get close to the problem. Touch the issues.
Get your hands dirty. Get your hands dirty. Tia, you have anything else to add?
I just wanted to say thank you again. Thank you to Tracy. Thank you to Avalon. Thank you to Kendrick. Thank you to everybody in the chat. This is so good. And I think that, when you're reading the news and you're seeing what's happening, you feel like really overwhelmed, right, and down. And then somehow, even in creating virtual space with one another, right, you start to feel energized. You start to feel like, you know what, actually, we can do something. And I want, to Avalon's point also, I want people to take that energy and understand that that's the energy that happens when we come together. That's the energy that happens when we build. That's the energy that y'all generated across the country in the people's process and like creating participatory democracy. It's not, it's not something that we can sit back and expect to work out. We have to come together and create the world that we want to see. And that's what y'all are doing. I want to commend you so much. I really appreciate you and really excited and happy that we have the Build Power platform to uplift your work, educate folks, and get folks to tap in. Thanks so much.
And then I also want to point out, it's a heavy time. And even in those times, we find time to have joy together, to love on each other, and try to bring about some comfort and peace in these settings. Even sometimes we will cry. I have my joints on deck. I was about to light up if it got a little bit heavy. But you know what I'm saying? But I just want to let y'all know it ain't always a heavy thing. But even when it is, this is what makes it worth it. This is what gets us through it. And even in those really, really, really hard times, we have no choice, because we can't we wouldn't find joy if we waited for everything to be perfect and peaceful times. So we have to find them in times like this, in the education, in the work. So I appreciate y'all for bringing that here, even though I know y'all are dealing with the heaviest circumstances in the world. Like, for real. That's not an exaggeration. Y'all are dealing with heavy things. So I really, really, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate y'all for taking time to educate folks and to educate me, challenge me, and give that love. So yeah, bless.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all. Have a great rest of your Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. We'll see y'all next week. Thank you and peace.
Next Friday.
Get free Friday.
Get free Friday.
Get free Friday. You got to do the shoulder. You can't not do the shoulder with that. Like that's how you got to do get free Friday, right?
Get free Friday dance. Free Friday dance. Free that shoulder.
You got to do the shoulder.
We're gonna choreograph something.
It's all good. I'm professional. I'm a professional. I got you. I got you, Tracy.
It's about to be chants and dances and all kinds of stuff by the time we get done with this. Bye.
All right. Bye, guys.